Hello again, fellow basement dwellers. This is your good friend Patrick O'Dowd returning to welcome you all into another edition, the 352nd edition of Bandwagoners. That's right, kids. I missed episode 350, but I'm back now despite the efforts of one PC Tunney and David Ungar to try and remove me from the broadcast. They're already protesting innocence. I got the receipts. And if you listened to episode 351, you would know. But before we get into the nitpicks and the pits of the nicks and all of that, I'd like to just remind you that Bandwagon Nerds is brought to you as a part of the Chairshot Radio Network here on thechairshot.com, where we remind you to always use your head.
Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
And make sure you get yourself over to prowrestlingtees.com/thechairshot for all of your Chairshot swag needs, including the beautiful Bandwagon Nerds shirt. I am back from vacation 2 weeks away. I missed San Diego Comic-Con, missed the massive Comic-Con episode. Sad to have done it. I am joined by our OGs, the men who try to get rid of me, PC Tunney, the Executive Vice President of Talent Relations and Wednesday Programming, and the lawyer himself, David Ungar. And gentlemen, I'm just gonna say, I'm listening to episode 351. I'm having a good time. I'm listening to reflections on all the things that happened out of San Diego Comic-Con. And Greg DeMarco, you hold Greg DeMarco on a Sunday out of whatever the hell it is that DeMarco does on Sundays. I wish I knew. I don't know, and I don't particularly care. He's a family man. I believe the little DeMarco was in town until last week, so that may have been a lot of their time. But you hauled him out to watch a lot of trailers. You did some conversations and talking. We get to the end of the show, and all of a sudden I hear Dave talking about helping Patrick find a permanent singing gig on a cruise ship somewhere.
I don't see that as a negative. I don't see that as a negative.
It sounds like you're trying to get rid of me. Sounds like you're trying to push me out, trying to work. 352 episodes later, it finally comes to light. He wants to be the last OG standing. Well,
I think I speak on behalf of Tunney that this was a life enhancement for you that we were trying to accomplish.
Let's lay this out too. Yeah, Tunney's like, what did I do? So Dave is like, give Patrick another job. And then Tunney is like, I don't have to take notes when Patrick's not around. This is so much easier.
I said Greg's here. I don't have to do as much research.
Strongly implied that my presence makes your life harder. That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
You need to bring up why in your next therapy session why you're so defensive.
I reckon as a good villain, like Cobra Commander and Megatron, they're always watching their back. They always got to watch out for the usurpers. And you hear things. There's threads.
Michael Jordan, by the way.
You can say what you want. I understand the shenanigans and the conspiracies. I see through the lies. Dave doesn't wish for my betterment. He doesn't want me to have groupies, which we're going to address that in a second.
Only one of the three of us has groupies. So, I mean, that's a fact.
Yes. So I am indeed back from my cruise of the Mediterranean, had a wonderful time. And I do feel it is imperative that I at least tell one story from the trip. And since Dave has brought up the groupie thing, I feel it is probably best that I tell the groupie story, because this actually, Mrs. O'Dowd caused this problem. So on the cruise ship, anybody who knows anything about me, and Greg actually talked about it on the show, knows that I love me some karaoke. I do karaoke all the time. In fact, just last night as we're recording here, I mean, we're here live, by the way. And if you're watching us live, feel free to jump in the chat, make some comments, and go back and confirm what I'm saying, that these two yahoos are trying to get rid of me, trying to get me out of the show, trying to fire me from my own show. That's fine. That's fine. I'll
air got into your head.
I'll speak. I'll start recording podcasts on my iPhone as a note, just like one long vocal note, and I'll just post those
video diary
on MySpace. I'm going to put them on the new resurgent MySpace because apparently MySpace is coming back.
You and your buddy Tom. Yeah, you and your buddy Tom.
Me and my buddy Tom. Hey. But anyway, so yes, I'm on. This cruise. First of all, this cruise was amazing. If you have the opportunity to go to Europe or to see other parts of the world, please do. Please do. If it's memories to last a lifetime. It was amazing. Got to spend a lot of quality time with the family, with little O'Dowd. We went to the ruins of Pompeii. He loved. We did like a 2.5 hour tour of the ruins of Pompeii. And it was amazing. It was a once in a lifetime sort of thing that now will become a twice in a lifetime, and over and over and over again. This travel has become much more a part of our lives than I ever dreamed it would. But on cruise ships, there's always activities on the ship, and we were sailing on the Enchanted Princess, part of the Princess Cruise Line. Folks, by the way, here's your bandwagon nerds connection. The Princess Cruise Line is the cruise line that was in the Love Boat.
Yeah, I was going to ask if Captain Stubing was Captain Stubing
Captain Stubing was not present,
Fine.
But one of the things on your in-cabin entertainment of all the like movies and stuff, they have TV shows, and they have the entire run of the Love Boat. You can watch every episode of the Love Boat on the Princess Cruise Line, which was kind of fun. I watched one episode and was like, holy shit, this show is terrible. Like, watching it, I was like, oh my God, this is some pretty bad stuff. The episode featured Jimmy Walker as one of the guest stars. Jimmy Walker was on there, and Suzanne Summers, young, very hot Suzanne Summers. But anyway, none of that has anything to do with the groupie story. So karaoke every night on this ship at 10:30 p.m. From 10:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. you could do karaoke. And I had gone to check it out like the third night of the cruise. It was a day at sea, so not a lot really going on, nothing to really plan for. I get there, I sign up for karaoke, and there are a few. We were traveling with a ton of other families from our area. Like, it was this massive group of cruises. So like we had like 43 people from our region on this cruise that were like friends or connected. So I go there and I sign up, and there's a few of them there. A couple of parents, some of the teenagers that were there, they had signed up as a group to sing. And I go on and I sing Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. Mm-hmm. And it goes over pretty well. So much so that the people who saw me there were talking about me with the rest of the group. Oh my gosh, Pat sings so good. It was great. And the organizer of our trip, my friend Kay, she was like, oh my gosh, we should go and check it out after dinner. Like, sign it up. We'll go. Will you go and sign up again? And I'm like, yes. And I'm like, if that's what you would like me to do, I will sign up. So I'm like, all right. So we go. Another member of our group, he wanted to sign up as well. So I was like, oh yeah, we'll go over there. We got to watch and see when people start to line up, because karaoke on a cruise ship is like fucking Thunderdome, and it's a hard out. Like, you have an hour, and they will get as many people as they can. But if you don't line up early enough, sorry, better luck next time. And so we get there, we get in line, and I was like, okay, I want to sing something different than Don't Stop Me Now. And I wanted to sing my favorite song to sing for karaoke is the song Somebody to Love by Queen. Cruise Line didn't have the song. Right. So I'm like, well, that's odd. So this time around, I'm like, okay, what about Creep by Radiohead? Cruise Line didn't have the song.
Wow.
So then I'm like, all right, I'm going to do something easy that everybody knows. It is a karaoke staple, something that people will sing back to. I'm like, Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi. Cruise Line didn't have the song. So I was like, fuck it, I'll sing Don't Stop Me Now again. So I sang it a second time. And this is the video that then my wife posted on social media, where I start singing the song, and as I get into the part of the tune where it picks up, you start hearing screams from the audience. People are going nuts. I'm not even joking a little bit, like big woos, like this whole thing. So like I killed it, right? Like, it was great. Have a lot of fun. I give the microphone back to the host. The host actually was like, he called me back to be like, what do you do? And I'm like, I work for the University of Massachusetts. I'm very boring. And he was like, oh, you have fans. So I go through that. The rest of karaoke ends. We're standing there with all my friends who had come to watch me sing this. And these four ladies that I really hope, in my age guessing, were in the upper outside of high school teens to early 20s college age.
Ooh.
All of them are still in their bikini tops and jean shorts from their day at the pool. And one of them in particular starts going on and on about how great I was and that this was her favorite song ever and that I had an amazing voice and I rocked it. They wanted to know what I taught and I had to explain that I didn't teach. Like they're chatting me up. And they were talented young ladies with a lot of assets. So I wanted to give them my time and attention. Because respect, right?
And you're critical of me for trying to get you a permanent position
here. I'm being respect. No, you're trying to force me out. I understand. You've always wanted the big chair. Yeah, I get it. Sure. You've always wanted the big chair. Yeah. You're like, I run all these other podcasts. Heaven forbid I talk about aliens and shit. Give me the nerd channel. We'll talk about more aliens or something. Anyway, so this happens in front of all these other like middle-aged folk like myself. They're like, oh my God, he has groupies. After they walk away, a whole other family came up to me and chatted. So like I was a cruise ship celebrity. So that happens. And then the following morning, Kay is again telling her parents now, who are also on this trip, at breakfast to the breakfast buffet, about how Pat's got groupies. He's big man on campus. He's the guy walking around, like all this stuff going on. And I'm trying to downplay this when what should happen and who should walk by. But these four young ladies, once again, clad in their bikini tops, and they're like, oh my God, hi! And I'm like, shit. And so this is just going to be something I'm going to hear about for the rest of my days or until the next cruise.
Well, it does sound like your wife was a bit of an instigator on this whole thing.
She did. And yeah, and so she puts this video up and says, Pat has groupies. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. And of course, because she tagged me in this post and it was on Facebook. So sorry, if you're under 35, you probably haven't seen it because it's on Facebook. But yeah, so people who are friends of mine that like, and I had a ton of karaoke friends who commented on it. Of course, I listened to the podcast after this video drops, and what do I hear? But Dave talking about my groupies and all that. So yes, I have.
I'm here
somewhere in the universe. There are four young ladies from California, Dave, if I do recall correctly, that thought I was top shit at karaoke on a cruise ship. So
it was a good performance, Pat. I will say that it was a very good performance.
Your wife bought them a round of shots and asked them to talk you up.
I sure hope so, because by golly, it's a horribly awkward thing, and like not something that kids. I portray this villain here. I am a very uncomfortably, socially awkward human being out there in the world. Like,
listen, as someone else who does karaoke and thinks that they're a decent singer when they pick the right songs to sing, you got to stay within your
range.
Yeah, your range. If you can do something right. I've also had people come up to me and give you compliments on stuff like that, and it feels great, right? And it's especially
it's very gratifying
when it's the opposite sex or the sex of your choosing, and they're younger and hotter and things of that nature. It's a big boost to the ego.
They were very talented. They were very talented young ladies.
They're taking their talents to.
I base my singing performance on my scores on Rock Band. That's it.
Well, good job. I will say about the trip itself. I got one other fun story, a little O'Dowd story. This is how I know this is my kid. Like there's no question about parentage here when it comes to personality and attitude. So one of the things he was very excited about touring the ruins of Pompeii, which was the first stop of the cruise. It was 91 degrees at like 9 a.m. in fucking Salerno. It was hotter than like shit. Here. But he was very excited because I had been like, dude, it's gonna be really cool. We're gonna see this archaeological site that's still being uncovered to this day after being buried from eruptions from Mount Vesuvius. And I was like, we're gonna see bodies of people who were trapped in the aftermath and all this. And he's like, okay. So we're walking around and we're just looking at ruins of buildings. And the thing that makes Pompeii so unique is just the overall condition of the ruins as they've been unearthed, and like how vivid the paintings and the sculptures and everything still look. And this tour goes for about 2.5 hours. And at about hour number 2, he looks at me and he's like, "You told me there'd be bodies. You lied to me." I was like, "I didn't lie to you." So I'm like, I'm sorry. I thought there'd be bodies. He's like, "Well, I was expecting dead bodies, and I haven't seen a dead body yet." And I'm like, "Geez, man, like, I'm sorry. I don't know. Hopefully this turns around." And our tour guide, as we get to the end of the tour, it ends in a small museum that they have at the end of the ruins. And that is when he explains the bodies that people see. And he explains that they're not really bodies, but what has happened is these people were trapped, they decomposed, their bones remained, and their shape within the where they were buried is retained. And so an archaeologist filled them with plaster to make plaster casts of these bodies as they were excavated, and then those are on display in the thing. So he's like, so the bones are still in there. So I'm like, "Look, there's your bodies." And the little O'Dowd, he just looks at me and he's like, "Those aren't bodies. Those are spaces that held bodies. You lied to me. You lied to me." And I'm like, "I didn't lie." And that became the running joke of the trip, is that every time something that I said didn't actually happen, I lied to him. And so he was like, "This trip was a whole lie. You told me nothing but lies on this whole trip." And I was like, "You're my kid, fucking gaslighter."
The villain liar, man. That's going to be your new name.
I am legit concerned that this child is going to cut someone's head off at some point. Not really. I don't think that's going to happen. He's a good kid, mostly.
Speaking of Pompeii, have you checked out any of that Hiddleston program on Disney?
No, but it is on my Disney Plus watch list to check out. It may make my what you watching at some point. So, but I'm back now. I'm back. I'm in August, which is my most stressful time of year. I've already, warned these guys we're going to be missing some shows down in the back half of August as we move the kids back into the university. But I'm here today. I did listen to your shows, both shows in my absence. Loved your Comic-Con conversations. I don't have much to add out of what we saw out of Comic-Con. I loved the Ryan Reynolds appearance. I love the way they confirmed that Deadpool will not be in Doomsday, explaining that he comes in asking if there were still reshoots or how he could sign up, and they're like, "Bad news." That was cute. I trying to remember, there was one trailer that you all talked about though. Oh, the Clayface trailer. I just want to put out there, I'm intrigued by the Clayface movie.
Okay.
It looks like a fascinating body horror story that I don't think is going to be like other villain movie trends where we're trying to redeem a guy. This is a descent into madness that is a horror. Like, it's a horror movie, and it's going to be a true horror movie. It's not going to end uplifting like. And I think that is how you make a villain movie without Batman, a Batman movie without Batman. The problem that I always saw with the Spider-Man villain thing that Sony tried to do was the weird redeeming arcs they kept trying to do with every single villain story. And they did not understand the assignment. And this looks like a film that understands the assignment. Now, whether it's good or bad, I can't speak to it yet, but I do like that it looks like they're going whole hog all the way in with the body horror thing. It's very Cronenberg, very, very interesting to me. So I don't know that I'll see it in theaters, but it is an intriguing flick to me. And I think if it's I don't know what its release timeline is, October maybe.
October, I believe, yeah.
Which makes sense. Horror season, put something out for spooky season, that works. So we'll have to see. Other than that, not too much to add with Comic-Con. The other thing I wanted to talk about, because you had talked about Transformers the movie, and that trailer 2 weeks ago. We're going to make some history, fellas. Breaking news. DJ and I'm going to be on DJ's podcast at some point ahead of the release of the Transformers movie, so that we can talk about some of the lore and history behind this film, because this was one of the ultimate shared trauma experiences I had as a child of the 80s. And amongst the many children's films that traumatized kids in the 80s, whether it be The Land Before Time, An American Tail, Labyrinth, The Never-Ending Story, The Dark Crystal, Black Cauldron. Optimus Prime dying was probably one of the heaviest hits. Children screaming in tears in theaters to the point where parents were taking them out of the theaters and complaining. Hasbro so fucked up in their desire for new toys and thinking that they could just kill off a character in a dramatic way and it wasn't going to impact children in sales. And it inadvertently led to the downfall of G.I. Joe and its series and its work. But that's a story for DJ's podcast, which
Can
I need to check in with him to find out how
something that came up at the end of the trailer. They said there's additional content coming up, and you see Optimus. Is that new or was that in the original?
So the part of the backlash that came from the movie in season 4 of the Transformers, the final season, Optimus is resurrected. Because it was the backlash was so fierce, they had to retcon Optimus Prime's death and bring him back. So I don't know if they're including that in this film or if they're teasing something else. But Optimus Prime 1000% was brought back from the dead in season 4 of the original 80s Transformer cartoon. So that is true.
Because we weren't sure about that, and I said, "Well, Pat will be back next week, and I would ask you about that." So.
Oh yeah, I know things. And here's the other thing I know. We have quite a show to get caught up on our own. There was, San Diego Comic-Con happens last week, and that's, huge news time. I appreciate we're gonna talk about some controversial Marvel decisions. We're gonna talk some Marvel casting announcements. We're gonna talk some DC news. And we have a lot of catching up to do. We have 3 episodes of X-Men 97 to review. And of course, we are going to talk about Spider-Man Brand New Day. That's right, kids. If you live your life spoiler-free and haven't seen Spider-Man Brand New Day either as we're recording this live, or if you're catching this on Monday, maybe you wanted to beat the crowds, because boy, did the crowds show up to the tune of $957 million worldwide. I understand. I respect it. But we are not going to be spoiler free at the end of this show. And so we will, I'm sure Dave can find a way to timestamp it in the description when he posts the podcast so that folks can pay attention to that. And he's shaking his head. No,
they're on their own.
Dave does not care. He does not care about you, listener. See, he's going to try to get rid of me. And then he's going to, you know what he's going to be? Dave, I'm going to do this. You're the Bob Chapek of Bandwagon Nerds. You're trying to oust me, the Michael Eisner, so that you can take over, or you're the evil Bob Iger. That's what you are. You're the Bob Iger who can't retire.
I'm just saying, we've warned people in advance, so why change precedent now?
Some of us have timestamped back when they had access to the website.
But we can change that.
I can't.
No, I'm okay just being talent. Yeah. We've talked about my comfort level as just talent.
You're the one with groupies, man.
I am not the one. I am not important to this network. I could disappear tomorrow and the network would continue. And we all know that to be true. It's true. But we do have quite a show. I wanted to make sure that I put my stamp on the fact that I have returned to this show by giving you the weirdest trailer I could possibly find. But before we can talk about it, Tony, could you just play like 3 seconds of number 2?
That's it.
And there's 3 seconds of number 2. I picked 2 trailers. Now, the first trailer that I picked is still playing in the background. That's nice.
You can turn it off now, Tony. It's okay.
No, it's fine. Hey, we're on the show. So I picked 2 trailers. One mainstream, massive. It was a trailer in front of my in front of my movie. I don't know if it was in front of your showings of Spider-Man, but this other one, I love the Skarsgårds. I love Alexander Skarsgård. I love that he willingly plays the weirdest shit that he possibly can. And the fact that he is playing a role where he is a man entirely made out of wicker, a magically generated husband for a woman played by Olivia Colman, and he's made by Peter Dinklage. I was like, this is so weird. It's a Patrick O'Dowd special just for these guys, and it's clearly a comedy. I don't understand it other than he is really good at the sex. That is the other thing I gathered out of this trailer. Is Olivia Colman basically plays this like fishmonger woman who in a village set in, I don't know, the 1400s, 15, olden days of yore. Clearly there's not a lot of technology about, but all these women in the village are having husbands. She's single alone. And finally she gets so fed up with everybody talking about finding husbands, and she's got all these horrible options that she asks Peter Dinklage, who apparently is magical, to make her a husband. And in 30 days, he makes her a husband made out of wicker, and that husband is portrayed by Alexander Skarsgård. And then they have a lot of sex and make a lot of noise about it. And apparently it turns the town upside down. I love weird. I can't wait to watch this movie. It looks hilarious. It looks odd. And anything that's going to push a boundary, I love that Alexander Skarsgård would do it. I have no illusions that either of you are checking this movie out. I just wanted to share the trailer and force you to say 3 words about it, even if it's not my style. For example, just put it out there. So, one of you talk about how you're not going to watch it.
No,
That's all I need to hear.
I mean, I like the cast. That's for sure. I mean, Peter Dinklage is going to be cool in this thing. But yeah, that is.
When does Peter Dinklage get knighted? By the way, that's what I want to know.
Hopefully
Sir
next
Peter
week.
Dinklage.
Hopefully next
he
week.
He should be knighted.
But I mean, it is like you said. It is a weird movie because it's all about horniness, essentially, right?
Yes,
I mean,
it's the horniest trailer I've seen in ages.
Yeah, it's like Pinocchio, a horny Pinocchio, right? I mean, sort of.
He's a real boy.
Yeah,
he's a real functioning boy.
Real boy.
I love the end of the trailer where he's sitting there at a bar and he's like, "I have to fix the bed again."
Yeah, he's hard in multiple ways. Apparently,
it's hilarious, but it does. Tony, I had one concern though. Splitters have got to be a real thing, right? Wicker seems rough.
It's we gotta rock with the grain, right?
Ribbed for her pleasure. That's
something like that. Yeah. We'll get to brand new day questions and comments when we get to that later in the show.
I just posted it on there for you, buddy. I'm on it. I got you covered, bud. Sort of.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah,
I'm still trying to figure out what witness I'm leading to.
I would have non-Roman Reigns did not acknowledge it until later.
Wow.
It looks fun. It looks funny. It looks hilarious. It looks like a different, smart, clever kind of comedy. Anytime you can combine, a little bit of sexuality with a little bit of like imagination.
A little bit of sexuality.
A little bit, just a touch.
Dave, I'm disappointed you didn't have this queued up for the live feed. I'm just saying, like, we could have watched this.
It's probably something I'll catch when it comes out on streaming.
At like 3:00 in the morning when you're high.
I'm usually not up at 3 in the morning.
Actually, 3 in the afternoon when he's high. There you go.
If I'm up at 3 in the morning, I probably have just gotten up.
Next to a wicker. Oh no, just kidding. All right. So okay,
I don't even have a wicker basket, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm questioning the practicality. Dave, I'm gonna move on if it's okay with you.
You're in charge, buddy.
No, I know, but I know you're a big fan of Wicker.
I think we hit on it. I mean, it is horny Pinocchio and
Pinocchio. I mean, I wonder if he does become. I hope he becomes.
That might be an episode title, horny Pinocchio.
Maybe that's why he keeps breaking the bed, because certain things grow like that.
It's true. All right, let's go to another movie that I don't think anybody asked for, but we're getting anyway, and that is. For some reason, we are making a third Jumanji film. This one titled Jumanji Open World. It's supposed to be the end of the show. To the film's credit, I will say the core 4 cast and the main like real world characters. It seems like they've done a good job of bringing everybody back. The Rock is back, Kevin Hart is back, Karen Gilliam's back, and Jack Black all returning. Danny DeVito's back. All the like, so many of the the OG characters have returned, and in this version of Jumanji, the video game has sort of unleashed itself. Apparently, by the lead dude whose name I cannot remember, running amok on the world. The main four characters though are in like their beta test mode, so they show them running funny, talking sort of weird. It's kind of hilarity ensues. Of course, we need to go back into the game. This time, we get our protagonist landing in the body of Karen Gilliam. We get the protagonist's mother landing inside of The Rock, because LOL, The Rock doing a woman being effeminate is funny. We get a little boy who lands into Kevin Hart again, so that you can have funny little sort of mashup moments with people sort of cuddling with the little Kevin Hart. And then last but not least, the mom's love interest, I'm assuming, the cook in their restaurant, ending up in the body of Jack Black. Right? Yeah. My question isn't about whether or not we're going to watch this movie, because I'm not. My question is really, has the world moved on from The Rock? Like, is The Rock the bankable guy? Sorry, Dwayne Johnson. Because and I asked this question because you start with, I look at things like Black Adam, Smashing Machine, Moana. This, what has he put out that people are like, yes, let's go see? And how does that impact his, like, I'm not saying he's not still a huge star. I'm not saying he's not still a big deal. Is he the star that everybody thought he would be when he started making films?
Tony, you want to take it first?
Dr. Smolder Bravestone at your service there, the Rock's character that you're asking about. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that he's not on the plateau that he once was on, or on that rise like he had for so many years as he reached the pinnacle. But he's still making money. Like, that Moana live action is going to make a bunch of money. This movie's going to make money. Smashing Machine was a little bit more artsy, was A24, wasn't a big studio release per se, but it's definitely not held in the regard or has the drawing power that it used to.
He's
It was clever though. Last thing I want to say though is, sorry, Dave. It is kind of clever that they were like reset to like what is it?
Like their beta mode,
Opening screen mode or something like that. They were said,
Right.
like they just kept resetting the same thing. That was kind of funny. Sorry, Dave.
No, you're fine, man. What I was going to say is I think Dwayne's just gotten too formulaic, and you can't just keep putting out the same sort of stuff. It's the same, a lot of Disney adaptations. Nothing that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't know if that's resonating right now. But like to Tony's point, he goes and does Smashing Machine, which is a deeper role, a more artsy sort of thing. That didn't land with people either. So I don't know, Pat, you may be right. I mean, they're Dwayne Johnson fatigue. I mean, the guy was everywhere for so long and in everything for so long.
Well,
and he was at the apex of everything that maybe people just got burnt out on him and they want to see him do something different.
And I don't even know necessarily, like, what would we say was peak Dwayne Johnson? Like, what movie would we say was
probably Fast and Furious? Some of the roles,
and he's
there.
not even like, and he's a lead in Fast and Furious, but he's not the lead. Like, he's not carrying, like, Vin Diesel. That's Vin Diesel's baby. And all the drama on those sets. By the way, is he in the next Fast and the Furious film, the newest one?
I don't. If Vin's in it, I doubt he's in it because of their issues with each other. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, when you look at The Rock or Dwayne Johnson and you say, okay, what? I think to really establish yourself as a character, you've got to be in more than one movie in a series, right? And I think Fast and the Furious is the only one that you can say, well, okay, he's who is he? Hobbs in that one or Shaw? I forget which one he is, but it doesn't matter. But I mean, yeah, you raised a really good point there. It's like identify a role other than The Rock that Dwayne Johnson is known for. And the voice of Moana is about it. Beyond that, it's really tough to say. Yeah,
I mean, Maui, by the way, not
What's it?
Moana. That'd be he's Maui. He's not Moana.
No,
That'd be
I
really
meant
weird.
the movie, the show.
Oh,
You're
gotcha,
right. You're
gotcha.
right. But you can't really correlate him with any sort of particular character or role. It's a mishmash of different things, and I don't know how how that resonates on a long term basis with people.
And I don't know if it's fair or unfair, but I do look at John Cena's star, and though I loved your conversation about the Matchbox movie. I just think it's really interesting, kind of the trajectory that John Cena's had since entering from the professional wrestling world into acting, his level of success, and it feels like he's still on the way up. Though I do think Matchbox is not going to land particularly great for him. That'll be what I think would be his first true challenge.
I think
I think
Cena still maintains this level of authenticity that I think a lot of people have lost with The Rock. I think a lot of people think The
Yeah.
Rock is playing The Rock, all the time.
well,
Where you're kind of getting John Cena, regardless of what you're seeing, whether it's a comedy movie or the new Matchbox movie or whatever you have.
Loved
well,
him
I
in
think
Barbie.
yeah, I think and like you're saying, Tony, I think Dwayne has been in the past. He's getting better, but he's been a little one dimensional in the past. It's been a lot of the action stuff, and John has come in and he does some action stuff, but he also will do straight up comedy, like Blockers and things like that. And I think that helps.
Sticky.
Well,
Yeah.
and again, Dwayne has done comedies. He did that movie with Samuel L. Jackson,
Be Cool.
where
Oh, the other guys.
no, the other
died.
guys he's done movie. He and Kevin Hart are like the inexorably tied together. Like they've done movies
Right.
together outside of Jumanji, obviously. Like they're boys, and it works. It's interesting to me because he is literally still everywhere. Like that hasn't changed, but I don't see his star at the level that it was. So and I found it interesting, and I don't think like this movie will do fine. Fans of the franchise are going to go check it out. It looks relatively fun and harmless enough. I won't be going to the theater to see it.
Yeah, to your point,
Little O'Dowd's outgrown it, so
fans of the franchise will flock. Like my wife's all excited about it because she's watched the first ones. I don't, other than the original with Robin Williams, I haven't watched the new ones, so I really have no clue what the hell's going on.
Yeah, the concept is fun, but all right, let's move out of the trailer park. We got to get caught up because it has been 3 episodes of X-Men 97 that we haven't talked about since Patrick's been away, because we did not cover the standalone episode of Wolverine getting the adamantium back onto his skeleton, which is a really important and impactful story for Morph and the character Morph. And what I think is really interesting about this, because you've got that standalone. Then we have a story about getting Polaris back into the X-Men fold and the forming of yet another X group as X Corp is the next creation. Not what? No.
You got to put your
No.
microphone.
No. I know. No. We're not giving it airtime.
Oh,
we're not.
I got you.
That's heat. It's blank heat. We're saying no. But we get the formation of X Corp, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and then a very intriguing conclusion to episode 7 of X-Men 97, going into the Gambit episode that we know is coming based on the title. I can't remember what it is, but it was a gambling card based title that we know is coming. But let's back all the way.
There's 2 episodes left, right?
Is it only an 8 episode
9.
run?
I think it's 9, right?
9.
Or is it
Okay,
10?
so yeah, then it'll be 2 episodes. Yeah. Really? There's only 2 episodes left?
Yeah.
Suck. Glad Ted Lasso's coming back.
Got lanterns too.
Glad Ted Lasso's coming back. It'll be great. Sorry, we'll see.
The Dead Man's Hand.
Yes, the Dead Man's Hand is the title of the next episode, definitely alluding to Gambit as death if they follow comics lore. But we start all the way back with Wolverine lying to Morph and pulling together a team under the guise of investigating some sort of disturbance up in old Canada. And one, we get do they call them the Brood? I think they
Yes, they do.
It's a battle against a lab that is consumed by the Brood. That Wolverine's only going to this lab because he knows it's where the adamantium experiments based on the file given to him from Captain America are. He knows he needs Morph to come along with this team that includes Sabretooth and Lady Deathstrike. I mean, talk about a team of winners. And I can't remember who the other two guys were that were brought in, the fodder, the two that died.
The two that died, yeah.
The two that died.
Yeah.
But Morph goes on this mission because he believes in what Wolverine is telling him in doing some good and shutting down this lab that he believes is experimenting on mutants. And the reality is that Wolverine so desperately wants to have the adamantium back on his claws that he's willing to lie to Morph to get it to happen. And they find that the lab has been taken over by the Brood. There is a big battle that eventually leads to the destruction of the lab to stop the Brood from spreading outside of that lab. But ultimately, a Brood infected Wolverine jumps into the pod to get his adamantium skeleton back and fight off the Brood infection and then lead to the destruction. And it really hurts Morph, who is clearly in love with Wolverine. Like, clearly, Morph's totally gay, totally in love with Wolverine, and he feels incredibly used by Logan in this episode, and rightfully so. He tries to defend the actions, even with Sabretooth of all people talking sense about what's really going on here.
Yeah.
So devastating episode for Morph, but important.
Critically important, like you're saying. Wolverine gets his adamantium back, and the relationship between him and Morph evolves. And shout out to some pretty cool action with Omega Red in this episode. I mean, that was. It's
Yes.
always good to see him in full throwdown mode, and he nearly destroys everybody in the lab, including our heroes and the Brood. So, yeah, it was an interesting episode, and I know online people were a little bit critical about it, but it's like it's a standalone episode, and it's vitally important for Wolverine to get back on track.
And I think that people forget this all the time. The structures of these kind of series and the way they've been built has always had, like, the first season did this too. Like, you had these establishing episodes for about 3 or 4 episodes, and then you had the Jubilee Mojoverse episode that then we moved on into the rest of the story, which eventually leads to Asteroid M and Magneto and that whole thing. This one
didn't the original show kind of do that as well? They'd had these focused stories, and then you'd have the offshoot episode here and there.
The thing that they did in episode 6 and 7 is very reminiscent of what they started doing at around season 2 of the OG series, where you would have an episode and then there would be like this little mini tag following a specific subset of characters. And in season 2, when they introduced Mr. Sinister and the Savage Land, Charles and Magnus are called under false distress signals to the Savage Land, and you followed their little journey while also going along, and so you culminated to the end of the season where the rest of the X-Men end up in the Savage Land, and they tell that story and sort of bring it to a head. And that's what we're seeing here, because episode 5 is in its own way like we walked away from Apocalypse for 2 episodes, basically for 3 episodes. If you look at episodes, because episode 7 isn't really about Apocalypse, because episode 6, which is the one with Polaris, getting Polaris back into the fold, is all about X Factor, or are they Force?
X-Force, I I don't remember.
X
But
Force
isn't 6 all about the Danger Room going rogue?
yes, but Polaris is also like because of her actions with helping to free Jubilee, she gets
Yeah,
kicked
right.
out. She
Right.
returns to the X-Men, and while there, she comes to grips with her lineage, the embracing her connection to Magneto, while at the same time, because she doesn't get fired for going rogue for freeing Jubilee, she goes rogue for going a little too hardcore on a mission that X Factor does.
Mhm.
And then that's what gets her fired, leads her back to the mansion where she's wrestling with her connection to Magneto as his daughter and not wanting to fall into his homo superior view of mutant kind over humanity. And it takes Charles helping her take down Danger to ultimately have her come to terms with herself. And then
Yeah.
we have that episode going on there, and then we follow X Force, who is still pursuing Apocalypse. And in pursuing Apocalypse, they're trying to make their way. We start with Apocalypse teasing the resurrection of Gambit. We see all of that at the end of the Polaris Danger episode. And then in the episode involving Colossus and Nightcrawler, where we bring Colossus back into the fold, because Colossus basically joins a cult up in the Savage Land. And, you know, his rage over what happened in Genosha hasn't changed. And it's a very interesting episode where Kurt basically tries to sway the life of Henry Gyrick in front of this mutant cult with Colossus as the judge. And Colossus was going to find in favor of Kurt to honor his sister Ilyana, who died in Genosha, because she would have agreed with Kurt. But Colossus makes it very clear, I was not swayed by you at all. But he is back with the X-Men, a changed mutant. And Colossus, who in every sort of medium we've ever seen has always been kind of the gentle giant type. This is Rage Colossus. This is a Colossus you don't see very often. And I look forward to seeing how that shifts as we move forward. And I hope he's in the intro. Because you notice, like, Polaris joins the X-Men again, and she's back. She's in the intro. You can't skip the intro on X-Men 97. But X-Force making their way to where we knew Apocalypse was reviving Gambit. They find a skeleton that is presumably Apocalypse's skeleton and a card on his chest, implying that Gambit done fucked up and killed Apocalypse. And as Gambit fan, I'm like, right on. As somebody who understands that this show is about Apocalypse, is like, this isn't really what you think it is. But again, you know, 3 great episodes. The Wolverine episode is definitely a cool down episode as we head into the final half of the season. And the X-Men, because they can't operate within the United States the way they want to, Charles Xavier finds the loophole and creates X Corp, which is now working internationally. We're don't worry, Tony. We still have Excalibur that we could get going. That's still there. That's the British X-Men. Like, there's still a lot that could happen.
Weapon X.
Weapon X.
Yeah.
Alpha Flight, technically Canadian X-Men.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing.
Alpha X. Yeah.
But I've talked enough. I've recapped what stood out in these episodes, good, bad, and different, as we move into the final showdown, first with Gambit before eventually getting to Apocalypse.
Well, I think, like you're saying, we already broke down the Wolverine episode pretty well. 6 and 7 are very interesting, and like you're saying, Polaris getting. Oh shit! I said it. God damn it. Sorry. Shame. You can give me the shame bell for that one, Tony. I deserve it for going there. I'm waiting. Maybe not.
Shame. Shame.
All right. Yeah, I like the episode with Polaris and the Danger Room kind of, and I think that's kind of something I was wondering is, like, what happened with the Danger Room that it created that kind of sentience and decided to go rogue and try and kill everybody rather than just train them, which was a a fascinating development in the story. The last episode, and I think you said it was Gyrick, Pat, but I think wasn't it Graydon Creed who was on trial?
Oh, Graydon Creed, you're right, because it was because it was Kurt's like
right,
father,
his brother, right?
His brother, that's right.
Half brother. Sorry, they make a big. But I like Sabretooth in episode 5. Throwing back to episode 5, where he says, "Yeah, I should have killed that little son of a bitch when I had the chance." And but Creed, of course, he shoots down or guns down. I forget the name of the zealot who was in charge of those guys.
The Templar.
Yeah, the weird looking dude, the dude who was going to kill everybody anyway. No matter what the verdict was.
Right, Templar, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I think going right to the end of the episode, because like you're saying, it was cool because Peter was like, Illyana would have spared him, but I wouldn't have. I was gonna, and of course the Templar, the dude, he didn't even wait for the verdict to come down. He just went rogue and decided, I'm going to take matters into my own hands, and it backfires on them. But yeah, it's obviously it's the very end of the episode with what you think is the skeleton of Apocalypse and Cable and whatever group he's leading, which is X in origin as well. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. How's this possible? And then they find the card and what's going on, because I think they allude to that in episode 5, the whole Gambit thing and the Horseman and or because Apocalypse is resurrecting somebody at the end of one of these episodes, right? And
Apocalypse resurrects Apocalypse. I don't know what the hell I just said. Resurrects Gambit.
Right.
At the end of episode 6. And then at the end of episode 7, they come upon the corpse of Apocalypse with a card on it.
Right. I mean, the main thing that stands out to me is like, we know Gambit is there, but where are the other 3 horsemen at? I mean, you got to figure they're not far behind.
So Cable leads X-Force and Havoc leads X-Factor. Okay. And then Charles Xavier leads X-Corp, and we no longer have an X-Men.
Clear as mud. Clear as mud.
Yes.
Tony, you got all that straight? Why don't you go ahead and jump in the deep end here?
I'm exhausted. The Templar is Exodus, so there you go. How about that? Exodus, nice. Right? No, it's 3 great episodes. I don't mind the standalone stories. I think it's fine. I think it gives a little bit of depth to whatever you're ultimately trying to do, because even though it still had a lot to do with what's going on as well. It should be interesting to see how we finish up these next 2. Are they going to have a Game of Thrones-esque penultimate episode where it's a big kind of death or something happens next week? But glad we're back on it and just learning new, different X factions. Apparently.
Are you excited for where we go from here?
Oh, feel these nipples.
We'll see what exactly happens next week. It'll be a lot of fun. Can't wait. We're heading towards the end of this. Season 2 has been a good one. I hope you guys have enjoyed it as much as I have. It's been telling good stories. It really has done justice to one of my personal favorite animated series of the 90s. So, all right, it is time for our first commercial break. When we come back, we're going to get into some news around the nerdosphere. A lot of bad decisions going around. And one decision that I'm not too mad about on the DC side. So stick around for that brief little interlude. You're listening to Bandwagon Nerds here on the Chairshot Radio Network, part of thechairshot.com.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Welcome back, everyone, to Bandwagon Nerds here on the Chairshot Radio Network, a part of the Chairshot.com, where we remind you to always use your head. Make sure you head over to ProWrestlingTees.com/the-chairshot for all of your Chairshot swag needs. Gentlemen, the news did not stop after San Diego Comic-Con. And you guys went into a kind of an in-depth conversation about where the DC universe is going and what's happening. And some things have the concerns about what James Gunn in this DCU is putting together and the different directions. I think one of the conversations, and correct me if I'm not reading into this correctly, is that the characters that this man has chosen to really focus on and bring about haven't exactly been the outside of Superman. We haven't had the big ones. It's things like not the Howling Commandos. That is the wrong.
Creature Commandos, yeah.
Creature Commandos. Howling Commandos is Nick Fury. Creature Commandos is DC. That Supergirl, this Clayface movie that's coming up, Lanterns, which I would argue is a significant piece. Peacemaker. There's just it's just there hasn't been a lot of what folks would call cohesion. And news dropped this week. It's been officially announced that Booster Gold, at minimum, is undergoing a writing team / showrunner change, if it happens at all. And folks, for those of you who don't know, Booster Gold, kind of a goofy, shitty superhero in a funny way. Like he kind of reminds me of a harder core Greatest American Hero, if that makes sense. Dude is just not quite competent at his job, but he's still a superhero and somehow manages to get the job done. Inspector Gadget for the DC universe, another example. Like, things work out for him, but he is not the best of superheroes. He's another comedic sort of character. And I guess I'm just not surprised that a Booster Gold series is not happening, because I don't know that it works for a DC. I don't know if it's that it doesn't work, or if it's just it seems like too much of the same thing that we've already been working through with things like Creature Commandos and Peacemaker and some of these sort of fun action oriented things. Too much Guardians of the Galaxy sort of stuff going on. And even Superman has humor, not as much, but there's a level of silly to it. I mean, I don't know, Mr. Terrific scene where he wipes out all of Luthor's goons. Like, it's done seriously but funny. James Gunn needs somebody else into the room to talk to him about changing things up, because that's what made Marvel so fucking successful. Because Marvel didn't start with an A tier hero. I don't care how you feel about Iron Man now. You only think Iron Man is an A tier hero because Robert Downey Jr. and that first movie was so successful. Nobody was clamoring to make an Iron Man film, and Marvel did it because it's what they had. They didn't have the rights to anything else. Now they do, and we're starting to see a little more for it. They turned the Avengers into a thing, but it wasn't there at the beginning. And so but you looked at those different films, and while
I've got control over the soundboard too, Tony.
But the origins of the Avengers, were all fairly similar films. But as they started to move and evolve, they branched into different subgenres that told different things. So whether it was, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, which was more of a spy thriller, espionage sort of story, to Thor, which is just mythic, godlike fantasy, to sort of the grounded tech, the tech genius story. It was varied enough that people kept going to them. And I feel a lot of sameness out of James Gunn right now. And that's why I don't think Booster Gold works or gets to go.
Who cares? Who gives a shit about Booster Gold? The problem they're having is they're trying to stay away so far from what they're trying to stay so far away from Zack Snyder and from Grant Gustin and from anybody that's played anything moving forward. Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa. They're even trying to stay away from Batman that's going on right fucking now. And James Gunn, in doing so, has decided, well, I'm just going to pick and choose the cool things that I like, and everybody else should like them too, right? Like, I get it. You want to start with Superman, fine. I'll bet you I'll like Supergirl when I watch it, great. But at some point, you need more than just these tertiary characters and a promise that we may get Batman at some point down the road. None of it works like that. That's not DCU. get in with your big three and some of your other excellent tertiary characters, right? Like they're so running away from the past so much so that they're 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 ripping off their nose despite their face right now, and it's not good.
As much as it pains me to say this, Ray was right, because when he used to come on and say that he disagreed with how James Gunn was booking this, with going with all these tertiary characters, starting with Creature Commando and all that sort of stuff. And I disagreed with him because he was bringing Superman in so quickly after that. But now you got to look at it. And to Tunney's point, it's like you cannot build the DCU the same way you build the MCU. It just doesn't work. And the worst thing that happened to James Gunn was the success of Guardians of the Galaxy, because he thinks he can capture lightning in the bottle every single time like that. And it's just not going to work for everything. DC and Marvel are very different companies. They're very different comics. DC is very top heavy with iconic heroes. Two of the big three, and I think I said it last week, Tony, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but two of the big three were mentioned in the Eternals. You know, they mentioned Superman and Batman by name in a Marvel movie because they're transcendent and iconic. So, yeah, keep it. And yeah, I have nothing against Supergirl. It's a good movie, and I'm really curious to see what you guys think of it when you can watch it, because it is a good movie, and its epic failure at the box office notwithstanding. But yeah, I think they've got to shift their focus. James has got to shift his focus and get away from people like, whatever Clayface is going to be is one thing. Lanterns, I do think will do well for them. Because Green Lantern is one of those characters that is well renowned in DC lore. Flash is the same way. You know, they need to do something with Flash. They need to do something with Wonder Woman. You've got to figure out this Batman situation sooner rather than later. They've got to figure that out, because Batman's more popular than Superman, and that pains me to say that as well. But they got to figure that part out. But he can't keep. Go ahead, Tony.
It's just too bad, the whole Ezra Miller thing, because you could have had a great in by pairing Batman and the Flash together. It's such a wonderful contrast on the other side of the coin, where Iron Man and Spider-Man have that relationship in the MCU.
Right.
You know.
Well, the problem is that they could have used the Flash, Ezra Miller's that last Flash movie, as a way to reset everything and transition from Snyder to Gunn in a way that would have made some fucking sense, rather than just completely reset everything. But they didn't want to go in that direction. But I'm with you guys. Yeah, Booster Gold is such a niche character that it is not going to land with people. Now, I mean, if you're doing a series, that gives you some more storytelling latitude and that sort of thing. You know, what we saw with Peacemaker, that Peacemaker was a sub-character in Suicide Squad, but John Cena made that character, brought it to life in such a cool way. Doom Patrol was the same sort of thing. Like when Doom Patrol started, like, who? And then that evolved as well. So in a series format, you can do something with this, but it's still facing a real uphill challenge, because Booster Gold is such mid-Carter. You know, if we're using wrestling analogies, he is solidly a mid-Carter. And I just don't know, given the present climate, that people are going to gravitate towards that. Lanterns is different because everybody knows Hal Jordan and John Stewart. That's going to do well. But yeah, man, Booster Gold, that's a tough one.
Okay.
They need
I'm
Lanterns.
not sold on Lanterns. I'm not sold at all on Lanterns.
Even
they
Greg
need it to be great.
For Lanterns. Greg's in for Lanterns. Even
Yeah.
they need the success of that streaming series to be added into the DCU, right? They need to use all three. Yeah,
they need a win. Bad.
All three Green Lanterns. They need all three to show up somewhere and be a part of something.
Indeed. Well, DC's not the only company that is ending things, as we got two announcements. Now, Dave, you laid the foundation last week, and I think this was not a surprise at all when Kevin Feige gives an interview that I think I shared and then you put on the show, where Feige was like, I feel like a loser. We dropped the ball and played. Like he to his credit, he owned that they fudged up. And it just got made even more official this past week as Mahershala Ali comes out and he was like, I'm done talking about Blade. It's dead. they if you have questions about why we're not doing a Blade movie, you need to ask Marvel. And that Marvel decided that they needed to remove it. And this was not a shock because we've been joking about Blade being dead for literally years on this podcast. Literally years. We've been and for former cast member, or I'm sorry, not cast member, former host Ray was like the last person holding on to Blade's gonna happen. It's nope, it's done, it's dead, dead as a doornail. That not a surprise in my opinion. I think Mahershala Ali making some very pointed comments about that says a lot in how he felt because he was very excited about it. And I remember, you want to talk about Hall H moment? Do you guys remember when they announced Blade, how that thing went? The whole thing went black. The screen opens up with Blade, and then Mahershala Ali walks out, and people went crazy. And ultimately, what I think happened here was the failure of films after that announcement that were tied to Blade, namely the Eternals. And I'm one of the few people who is very I enjoyed the Eternals thoroughly. Saw it in the theaters, liked it. I know I'm in the minority, but really enjoyed that movie. That movie, like, I remember being crushed when one of the characters died, like just being thoroughly sad by the passing of one of the characters. And so I was all in on the Eternals. But one of the post-credit scenes in the Eternals is, Kit Harington's character about to become the Black Knight, and Mahershala Ali's Blade off screen, we don't saying, asking if he's ready for the next step. But that movie tanked. Shit went crazy with Kang and all of the business that happened with that. And suddenly Marvel had to make decisions of what was going to work and what's not going to work in their future. And Blade, unfortunately, was a casualty of that. And they ultimately decided not to force that, much to the loss of fans of the property, the franchise, and Mahershala Ali in particular. So that was news item number one. More shocking to me, though, was the news this week that Marvel abruptly is canceling Wonder Man. I don't get it. Like, I don't get this one at all. This was a show that did something different. You know who I thought of when I watched this show the most? Our good friend Aesop Mitchell. Because he used to complain all the time about like Marvel being redundant, insane. This movie or this series was so outside of what had happened previously that I thought, man, if Aesop was going to give another one a chance, this might be one that he could watch, because the superhero part of the whole story is completely tangential to anything that's really going on until the end of the series, when we finally see, things happening. Ben Kingsley and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II were magic together. We loved this series. I remember talking about this series with you guys. I don't understand what happened between Disney announcing a renewal to a week ago being like, JK, we're done. Abdul-Mateen is nominated for a fucking Emmy. And it's crazy to me that this happened. And I'm mad about both of them. I'm more mad about Wonder Man because I've been expecting Blade. But reactions and thoughts to these two Marvel cancellations before I go into another direction.
Well, yeah, obviously, and I take no great pleasure on this front of being right and Ray being wrong about Blade. But the writing's been on the wall for that for a long time. And I think Blade is a victim of the course correction that Marvel had to make. And I truly believe that the Jonathan Majors blowout and everything where they came in and said, okay, we need to course correct, get the Russo brothers back in here. We got to shift from Kang into Doom. And yet Blade doesn't really fit into that story, at least not at this point in time. So it's not surprising that they couldn't figure out a way to wedge that in there without just forcing it. And I mean, and they tried to force some things. We saw Secret Invasion was a bit forced, and it felt like, it just didn't land with anybody. So, I think that Blade is a victim of that. But Wonder Man is the one that I don't understand, because, like you're saying, if you're going to say, yeah, you are renewed for a second season, and then you abruptly change that, you can't look at Wonder Man and say, yeah, that's the same sort of situation as Blade, because they'd already course corrected by then. And at that point, it's like, yeah, Wonder Man. I mean, I guess if you're looking, does Wonder Man fit into the whole Doomsday Secret Wars story?
It doesn't have to.
I know he doesn't.
That's the thing, is it doesn't have to, because it was so good without being in it.
Right.
I hate this decision.
I hate it so too. Much.
And I mean, so disappointed in it.
It just feels like Marvel or Disney is looking at this like the margin for error that they may have enjoyed for all these years since Endgame has whittled down so much that they just don't want to take a chance. But it was a successful show. It was nominated for awards. Yaya got, like you're saying, Emmy nomination. They've got Sir Ben Kingsley in there. You've got the cast in place. Everybody loved that show. So I'm befuddled as to why they would go in this direction and cancel this at this point in time. Because I'm with you. It doesn't make, for everything that makes sense about Blade being officially declared dead, you can say the opposite about Wonder Man. Like, that makes no sense at all. Yeah, I don't know, man. It is a head scratcher of a situation. I don't understand why Wonder Man is not getting its second season to shine. I'm at a loss for that one.
It had its own flavor, right? Like unlike any of the other series or even movies, if you want to say, and yeah, you can't question the chemistry between Kingsley and Abdul Mateen. It's too bad because they ended the season perfectly, with him breaking Kingsley out and then flying off and just ready to set up the next part of the story. So it's unfortunate. It really is. Dave and I really talked a lot about Blade last week. I think we pretty much gave our thoughts on that. So, I mean, Patrick, go ahead and lead us to what we're all about to get to, and lead the conversation, because I'm sure Dave and I will have some thoughts on what you're about to say and agree with probably a lot of it.
Marvel has a black hero problem right now, and they shouldn't, and it's kind of criminal to me, in that outside of, and this is another general problem I'm seeing right now with Marvel too, because like I am beyond happy at the success of Spider-Man, but Dave, you hit on it. It feels like this the majors problem and some of the movies that didn't hit have made the MCU and Feige gun shy about going with successful possibilities or trying some things that are risky in any way, shape, or form. And the box offices are only giving them reason to continue to be safe. And safe is not black characters, black heroes. I'm surprised Shang-Chi showed up in the fucking Doomsday trailer. And I'm going to say, so I can already hear now the people who are going to push back and be like, well, what about Black Panther? And what about Sam Wilson and Rhodey? Sam has never been taken seriously by the audience as Captain America. Even now, like if you look at a lot of social media response, they don't want to call him Captain America. Everything's about Cap's back. So much so that Anthony Mackie is having to be like, no, Steve Rogers is back. Steve Rogers, Sam Wilson is Captain America. We have a new Falcon, but we can't take like Captain America. I'm forgetting the name of the movie with Harrison Ford, Red Hulk, Brave New World.
Brave New World. Yeah. We've got Brave New Day and Brave New World.
Brand New Day. Brave New World, though. Brave New World comes out. It does okay. It's a good movie. It does okay, but people not buying it. People were kind of like Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. Now, sadly, because of the passing of Chadwick Boseman, put that in a different spot, but not quite as strongly received as Black Panther 1. And those characters, Wakanda seems important, but that seems about it. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with Sam Wilson, but we are not bringing, like, where the fuck is Luke Cage? Luke Cage is a side character in Daredevil. We had this Blade thing, whether it's a victim of circumstance or not, like, we're not going forward with Blade. You had a really good show led by a strong lead black character that we are canceling with no reason. It is not unreasonable that people are asking the question, why is this? Why are we doing this? Do we care? And Marvel then immediately, like within the same week of canceling this, is like, here's our beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman playing Emma Frost. Like, and that's not fair to Samara Weaving. I don't think it's about Samara Weaving. I think it's a great casting. We're going to talk about it in a minute. But there is a real concern and from a specific piece of their audience that I think is justified, and I think Marvel needs to pay attention to, because right now, the look, minimally, the look is bad. But I think it's a real problem, especially when you're taking away promising characters that people are excited about. Not just black people either. Like, the audience was excited about, and you're dumping them in favor of something else, and that namely being white folk. That not good, Marvel. Sorry, not cool. So I think they have some work to do to make this make sense. If that checks. So Dave or Tony, either one of you, like, I just think it's an issue. I think it's unavoidable.
Yeah, they never, Chadwick Boseman and then the Jonathan Majors thing, they never really recovered from that, and it's really weird because the possibilities with the Wonder Man character and the powers are kind of endless, right? They can kind of write their own story if they wanted to, but you hit on a lot of really good points. Not to reiterate anything, but it's a problem. Dave?
It is a problem, and I think one of the more fascinating aspects of this conversation, Pat, will be the casting for Storm in the X-Men. That's going to be a really big moment.
Because currently, the current rumor we're hearing is that Storm may pop up in Black Panther 3, and that Ryan Coogler is involved in the casting. That is the rumor.
And that's good news, because if you're going to get, because he'll cast a black actress, whatever you want to say, and that will help a lot. But yeah, and Black Panther 3 is like an interesting conversation as well, because it's like, is it solely a black actor thing, or is it a female black actor thing as well? Because we sure rushed to get who David Johnson is going to be T'Challa's son. Is that a reflection on how they're looking at Shuri as a sustainable, marketable character? Did they pivot and say, because he's just a baby in Black Panther 2, or a young kid, and now we're going to grow him up to be the next Black Panther? So it raises some real red flags as where Marvel's going. And I do think it is a question of their tolerance for certain things. And like, yeah, they were in a error-free zone after Endgame and Far From Home came out. Like, they could do no wrong. They had the world by this, had it by the, grabbed it by the neck, and they could do no wrong. And then they started to take liberties with these things. And as that goodwill started, we talked years ago, we talked about how Marvel had so much goodwill that they could take some chances, right? They could take some chances on some shows and some movies. And that goodwill is now gone, where they're in prove it again mode. And yes, as we're going to get Brand New Day, certainly proved it. But I don't know, man. It is a weird situation. But yeah, I mean, you look at the major black characters. You got Falcon, Sam Wilson. We've got him. We know what's going on with that. People are not exactly accepting of that, but that's an issue unto itself.
In fairness, people have not been accepting of Sam Wilson in the comics as Captain America. That's always been a thing.
And Falcon and
Marvel
Winter Soldier
needs to get behind the character. That's the problem.
Like Falcon and Winter Soldier did okay, but it had to follow WandaVision, which was a difficult task. But like you're saying, Luke Cage is a major Black Marvel character who's a side character in the Daredevil series. Now we'll see what happens with season 3. But yeah, I think you got to get Storm involved. That will help a lot. But they do need to course correct there as well. And a lot of this is I think maybe we undersold the big impact of the whole Jonathan Majors Kang situation and pivoting away from that and just the ripple effect that has had through Marvel for the past few years.
It really begs the question of what are you afraid of, Marvel? Like, in my opinion, is like, what are you afraid of? Like, it's not that fragile that it needs to be that heavily protected. So, yeah, like I said, Marvel's got some work to do. MCU, Kevin Feige's got some work to do. They have misstepped at other times when it's come to issues of diversity. Infamously, Avengers Endgame, where they touted our first gay characters, and it was one of the Feige brothers playing a gay man who went on his first date post blip.
Right.
Weak sauce. By the way, Marvel, if you really want to do something that'll get people excited, Bobby Drake, Iceman is gay, has been for a relative long time. So there you go, putting it out there. Also,
that raises
do better by your black characters.
But no, I mean, black characters, gay characters, female characters. Both of them, Marvel and DC, are both gun shy about going there because it's directly impacting their box office, and they're getting pressure from stockholders and all this other shit.
Yeah, because even and I do think you can't do Lanterns without starting with Hal Jordan. At least with Lanterns, it seems like it's very clearly moving to Jonathan Stewart as the Green Lantern of this universe alongside.
It's going to be a passing the torch series for sure.
So, all right, let's get on. So we'll talk about we'll talk more about Brand New Day after the second break, but we now officially have 2 names cast for the X-Men film. We have Sadie Sink, who has been official announced as Jean Grey. Spoiler alert. Worst kept secret in all of Marvel, especially after we got some of the later Brand New Day trailers. But we got also announced this week that Samara Weaving, niece of Lord Elrond and Red Skull himself, Hugo Weaving, has been cast as Emma Frost. I'm just happy that I no longer have to listen to people bitch about the possibility of Sydney Sweeney being Emma Frost. Like that rumor, which kids, we all know it. You guys joked about it, I think last week or the week before. X-Men is the new Fantastic Four when it comes to casting rumors. Mm-hmm. Like everybody is following every little nugget they could possibly get. And here's the deal. I think we might get more X-Men casting announcements in 2 weeks.
Yep.
You know what happens in 2 weeks?
I do. D23.
Destination D23, the Disney Con, where basically they do 3 different. Each day is a different aspect of the Walt Disney Company, and one of those is entertainment. So it would not surprise me if they announced some more casting out of Disney. Destination D23, the ultimate Disney fan event. Now, that is not to say that they will. So don't go in expecting it, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did. What we can say is by the way, if you have not watched Ready or Not and Ready or Not 2, like those movies are fucking awesome. And Samara Weaving is the lead character in those. It's hilarious. It's horror comedy, but it's more like action horror comedy, like where she is marrying into a wealthy family, and as a familial tradition, she has to draw from a deck of cards, and when she draws from the cards, the game hide and seek. The point of the game is that she must survive the family attempting to kill her because of a pact they have made with the devil, and so they basically try to hunt her down and kill her for the entire of the night, including her new husband. The sequel is just as fun. And let me tell you, I love me some Elijah Wood. Elijah Wood in Ready or Not 2 is hilarious as the representative of the devil. He's a lawyer for the devil. It's awesome. Anyway, watch those movies. They're a hell of a lot of fun. They're far more action than horror. It is worth the time. All of that is to say, I think Samara Weaving is a terrific actress. I think that she will work as Emma Frost. And right now, I am really jealous of whoever gets cast as Cyclops in the X-Men universe, because you got Sadie Sink on your left and Samara Weaving on your right. What? Damn, that's got to be rough. That must be hard for that person.
It's like having groupies on a cruise ship or something, right, Tony? I mean, it's tough.
Know, it's a difficult existence.
Go ahead, man.
I'm okay with it. I thoroughly enjoyed Sadie Sink as Jean Grey. I thought she did a wonderful job. Like you said, we'll get to that. I think the more like these are interesting castings, but I think there's more important ones that we're looking forward to that are still out there that are going to come soon, and hopefully we will see some of that at the upcoming Disney events. But we'll see. I know. Well, I'll save it. There's so much more to talk about here in this. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I love the casting. She looks the part, absolutely looks the part, and I think that's with Emma Frost. She's got the range to pull off that, because Emma can be a pretty. We've seen her in other movies, just kind of how complicated Emma can be. So I think she could do a really good job.
Well, and the real question to me is Emma Frost going to be Hellfire Club Emma Frost, or are we past Hellfire Club Emma Frost with her in this series?
Well, and I mean we're going to get into that when we talk Brand New Day, but it really, like, what are they going to do with Jean Grey? That's a big question as we move forward with this thing. And because that depends. If they're going in one direction, then it's Hellfire Club Emma. And if they're beyond that and we're into something totally different, then we don't have to worry about that.
It's true. I'm not sure. I think this is a good casting. I was trying to remember who was Emma Frost in X-Men First Class.
I'll look it up for you, but she was, whoever that was, she was awesome as well.
She was in Mad Men, if I do recall.
Yeah, she was great,
but I can't remember who played her. Well, if only Greg DeMarco were here to look it up, so that Tony didn't have to.
Yeah, researchers. January Jones.
Yes, that is correct. January Jones. Thank you, Dave, winning the race. But all right, well,
who's the redhead from Mad Men? Look that up. She was hot. Sorry, Patrick. Keep going. That was just,
yeah. Well, we're gonna stop the delay. We're gonna we've been talking around it long enough. We're gonna take our second quick commercial break. Come back and we'll dig into Spider-Man Brand New Day. So stick around for that. You're listening to Bandwagon Nerds here on the Chairshot Radio Network, part of the Chairshot.com.
This is your boy Kenny Killer telling you to make sure you check out thechairshot.com, bringing you breaking news, interviews, podcasts galore, everything pro wrestling. Make sure you check it out, thechairshot.com.
Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Welcome back, everyone, to Bandwagon Nerds here on the Chairshot Radio Network, part of the Chairshot.com, where we remind you to always use your head. Make sure you head over to ProWrestlingTees.com/thechairshot for all of your Chairshot swag needs. Patrick O'Dowd, David Ungar, PC Tunney. Kids, here's the time. If you have not yet seen Spider-Man Brand New Day and you do not want to be spoiled, then here, according to our timer that I'm looking here on the live timer over my head at 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 45 seconds, now's your time to shut off. I'm going to be quiet for a quick beat to let you go, and then we're going to get into it. All right, you had your chance. Tony wanted me to just go in. We are not spoiler-free here. What's that?
Tony's just like, screw everybody.
Is it Darth Vader's Luke's father?
Well, that one happened a while ago, so we can let that one be.
Wow.
Here, let's just start. Okay, so Spider-Man Brand New Day having the second largest opening in the history of film behind Avengers Endgame. according to most recent numbers, and those numbers only had it behind by $2 million. So
And
if
the only reason is because it was leaked online, probably.
and we're going to talk about this. That is it. Yeah, despite the entire movie being repeatedly leaked online, like every time I opened up X on Thursday, Friday, and a little bit yesterday, one of the first things that popped up would be the entire run of Spider-Man Brand New Day, over and over and over and over and over again. And that movie still made fucking bank. My theater was full. I'm assuming your theaters were full. It made its money, and this is why Marvel and the MCU is like, maybe we should just keep going with the familiar ones, because everybody likes Peter Parker. No, Tom Holland. A lot of talk right now about Tom Holland and his exit strategy, because he did say that there is a plan for the transition, and they did tease at least one other Spider character in this movie today. Colleen Moon is a student for Bruce Banner during the collegiate scene, who becomes Silk in the comics. So that is a possibility.
There's also a report that Tom Holland said that he knows when Miles Morales enters the MCU as well.
But anyway,
so maybe multiple Spideys take over for Tom.
Before we jump into this, like, deep dive, what does it all mean? Speculate on what the movie told us or what happened or this. I enjoyed this movie thoroughly. I've been asked already where it ranks in the world of Spider-Man live action films. I still don't have an answer yet. I go back and forth. While it is very melodramatic, Spider-Man 2, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2, has often been the gold standard, in my opinion, for a Spider-Man film. I enjoyed very much No Way Home, but it's never quite been my favorite. This is definitely up there. This is, if you look at those tiers that you'll sometimes see people do, this is an S tier Spider-Man film. Here are the things that I particularly enjoyed about this movie before we get into deep diving plot points. I loved that they did not go with the Man Spider evolution story arc for Peter Parker. They went with the totemic J. Michael Straczynski Spider evolution that happened in the late 90s, when they were trying to relook at Peter's powers, and it was more of, I'm naturally a spider, and it was very totemic. Loved that. Like the waking up of the cocoon thing, straight out of J. Michael Straczynski's book. The fight scenes and just the way that Peter Parker and Spider-Man are tracked throughout this film were done in very much a way that is unique to this movie. It came out this week that Jackie Chan and his fight choreography company was part of doing a lot of these action sequences, and it shows. It is phenomenal. It is terrific. It is amazing. Pardon the pun. And so loved that as well. I also loved the tease of people's memories coming back, and I know we'll talk about that a little bit, and what happened at the end of that movie, what it actually means. So I'll hold on that speculation, please, but I like the way that they did it. I thought it was interesting. This is an interesting take on Jean Grey as an orphan on the run without her parents involved. That is very unique to this universe. I also thought Sadie Sink did a terrific job. Most of my problems with this movies are quibbles. Probably my biggest quibble with this film is, Dave, you already know this, the way that the trailer set things up. I definitely thought a few of those B movies or B villains, those street level villains that Spidey does battle with, were going to feature a little more prominently than they actually did. Namely, Tombstone. We heard about Tombstone a lot. We saw him in the trailers in that one pose and be like, oh, what else is going to happen? Well, it turns out it's just that one pose, and then Spider-Man, like, incarcerating him. Womp womp. Scorpion, Matt Gargan, seemed like he was going to have a bigger role than really what he was. He was just a dude who got possessed. and released at one point. And then my other quibble that I do think is realistic is the lack of concern by the Punisher just being in broad daylight blowing shit up, because Frank Castle is always on the run. He's always in hiding. And he's just walking through town with his van and his rocket launchers. And it's fine. I enjoyed the character. And I know there's a lot of people that are kind of being pissy about how Frank's been softened for this. It's a Spider-Man flick, kids. Like Spider-Man. Like, this isn't Logan. This isn't an A24 standalone. Like, it's a Spider-Man movie. So we're gonna soften Frank's edges a little bit because it's a Spider-Man film.
Well, and it's only behind closed doors with Peter and MJ.
Right.
That's it. That's the only people, right? Like, and he can,
Right.
and it's because you can feel their love for each other. You know what I'm saying? You literally can, and the casting just adds even more so to it. I'll just tell a quick thing before Dave jumps in is, I talked about how my mom had been going with DP and I and Dan's wife and everything to all these Marvel movies. Well, my stepdad wanted to go to this one. First Marvel movie in the theater ever. Has only like watched bits and pieces of whatever's on fucking Turner, on the weekend sometimes, right?
Right.
So I drove them there, right? And on the way there, I'm like, just it's 2 hours and 25 minutes. He goes, "You're kidding me." As the movie ended, he turned to me and said, "That was 2.5 hours. It's over. That was amazing. That was quick." So it had a great story. First time Marvel viewer, loved it, and had a great time. So that was kind of one of the coolest things for me.
I do have one really important question.
Yeah.
How many times did you take a bathroom break with your little wall?
I didn't have to. No, I prepared. I shut off all liquids 2 hours.
Pissed in the parking lot as he's getting out of the car.
No. And I don't know if anybody else did, but I got a really cool Spider-Man pin.
I did not get a cool Spider-Man
pin. I did not get a cool Spider-Man
pin. Look at you.
There you go. I'm not gonna and like the nerd that I've become because of this show, I'm not gonna take it out of the wrapper. I'm gonna leave it in.
Yeah, that shit depreciates, man.
Obi-Wan has taught you well. So before I get into that, I'm going to put this up here. Shout out to Agent Super Aggro 5023, because this is true. 9 a.m. at a packed theater. This is a very highly entertaining movie, in my opinion. I think we would all agree with that. And we all had like my theater wasn't too bad because we went to see it where they had it in IMAX and all this other shit going on, or True Lux, I guess. So we're in the standard theater. Everybody's across the way watching it on the bigger screen and that. So our theater wasn't too terrible.
10:45 a.m. Saturday morning, 3D. The theater was 80% full.
Nice.
6:30 p.m. on a Friday night with a little Odell.
Oh yeah, it was shit packed. A thing about Punisher before I get into any of this is like, you also have to realize that the way that Frank's going to relate to Matt Murdock and Daredevil is infinitely different than the way he's going to relate to Peter Parker. They are completely different characters, So Frank's got to have his guard up with Daredevil because they've been at it for years, and Peter's somebody totally different. And Frank knows that Peter is a kid. He calls him a kid repeatedly. He knows who he's dealing with, so he's not going to be.
He's now in his mid-20s. Like that's the thing. Like, you could call him a kid because Frank Castle's in his 50s or 40s.
50s, yeah.
Well, I don't know how old.
Well, that's what this movie was about, though. It was basically Tom Holland's Peter Parker. Actually, he's a full-grown adult, even as a spider. That's what all that metaphorically was for.
Can I also say one of my favorite quotes that I've heard from Tom Holland that just kind of reiterates how much he gets the Peter Parker character in Spider-Man is, he was asked, who is Spider-Man's biggest villain? And he was like, it's life. It's just fucking life, because of the life he chooses to lead. And that's the other thing I think is really an interesting theme that they focus on in this movie, and the juxtaposition between Frank Castle and Peter Parker is the isolation piece, the choosing to live alone and to keep themselves out of the outside world. And Frank Castle having to be the one that says, look, my life is not how you should live. Like, this isn't glamorous. I don't know what you think you're doing.
Right.
And so to see Peter at the end put himself back out there to connect with Ned Leeds, who not Hobgoblin, at least not yet.
Not yet.
All, Jesus Christ, you kids in your speculation train just need to pump the brakes. Why did that? Right? No.
Yeah. I will say this, like, from my standpoint with live action Spider-Man movies, this is, and I've told people, it's like, I compare this to No Way Home, and I can't pick one over the other. Those two are like my number 1A and 1B as far as my favorite live action movies. I can't pick one, and I won't pick one, because they're both amazing in their own right, and telling different stories, and you know, you do get to see the maturation of Peter in this movie, and just, I mean, and you got to give Tom Holland credit. He carries large swaths of this movie with his acting skill, which has improved dramatically. And I think, you know, and I do draw a comparison because he was a big part of Odyssey as well. And he does phenomenally in Odyssey, but these are such different characters in different movies. But I thoroughly love this movie. I thought it has an emotional gravitas to it that even No Way Home didn't have in some places. No Way Home had it in different places, you know, the situation with May and all that. But yeah, this is an excellent movie. And, you know, the question of where do we go after No Way Home, they answered it very well with this movie and really kind of set things up. Okay, how do we get to the point where Peter reconnects? And you see him reconnecting with the people he cares about the most in a different way, you know, almost rebuilding a relationship from scratch, that he knows what's going on, but the other ones don't really have that knowledge. And I thought they played that off very well. It was very cool. But like you're saying, yeah, some of the villain interactions weren't as prominent as we thought. But that's probably because, like you're saying, Pat, his biggest villain is life itself. And that villain is very prevalent in this movie.
And again, I was a victim of marketing there. Like, I get it.
The biggest advantage that this movie and its story has is it's a love letter to the relationship between these three characters that they've prominently displayed so well for how many movies already now, right? Because you get to go back, how many callbacks are there, right? And then how excited are you when it happens again? So you're really leaning on history and people's emotional investment, and it's kind of, it's not an easy thing to do, but they did it really well, and that's why I think this movie is so good.
And I want to let's talk about that a little bit, because one of the is now that the film's been out, you know, here on, this is day 5-ish for a lot of folks, because, you know, you could probably see it theoretically on a Wednesday. Here we are recording on a Sunday. There's a couple of other things that I think have been really interesting as we've listened to people talk about, and that's the whole impact of Doctor Strange's spell and it's working or not working with folks. And there's 3 sort of specific characters that get paid attention to. Bruce Banner, when he's Hulk. And interestingly enough, if you follow the comics, Bruce Banner didn't remember that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, but Hulk did, because they're different entities, and Banner was around when Mephisto wiped everybody's mind. But
in the comics, Tony.
In the comics, Tony, not in the.
I could see him saying Mephisto.
MCU. Yeah. In the comics, Mephisto is the one who wipes everybody's mind that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Okay.
But
you brought it up with Ironheart in my other episode while you were gone, but I was like,
I heard. But it's okay to talk about Mephisto now that he's actually in the fucking cinematic universe. It was just the running gag that it was always going to be Mephisto was I'll just call it tiring. I was very tired, and exhausted. Anyway, so you've got that brief moment where it seems like Hulk recognizes that Spider-Man is not an enemy, which causes him to hesitate, and then Hulk does what Hulk often does, that always reminds you that Hulk is good. Hulk chooses to stop his rampage because Hulk understands. And that's always been a hallmark of the Banner part of Hulk. And it stops when Peter starts being like, I'm your friend. We're friends, Hulk. We've been friends. Then you get to MJ, and there's the tease, obviously, where Jean is possessing MJ, and sort of lying to Peter, which anybody with half a brain, hopefully, if you knew what that was when it was happening, because come on. But then later in the movie, like when MJ finds the letter and they talk, and she's like, I don't remember you. I don't know anything about you. I believe that. I actually believe that in the movie. I don't think she's lying to him. I think at the end, when she's holding the Black Dahlia and thinking about him, and what a lot of people picked up when everybody's been stuck in the freeze, is that whatever Jean did messed with her and Ned in particular on some level with their memory of Peter Parker.
Well, why is she?
Because she's
tears.
crying.
Yeah,
and you don't know why.
Right.
And then with Ned, we get the handshake. Him saying Peter, by the way, everybody, wasn't him remembering everything. It was him putting two and two together that Spider-Man, who MJ had said earlier in the movie was named Peter, was the flower guy. Like, that's what that was. It wasn't some magical memory thing. Like, if you go back and you watch it, because he picks up the handshake, that is the part that Jean gave back. But him remembering that Peter, like remembering the name Peter, he, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, that's merely him connecting the dots from when MJ called him Peter when he was hanging out with him building the Legos under the mask, and the flower guy part, like that. Flower guy, his name's Peter.
Because he doesn't see, when he gets to hang out with Spider-Man, he doesn't have to get to see him with his mask off. And
exactly.
That's important about the drawing, right? Okay, I get it now. Yep.
So that's my thought on that, and I think that is their segue into, that those connections becoming more strong connections should Spider-Man continue to move forward as a series.
So the only thing that and this is what I had mentioned earlier when we were talking earlier, Pat, that I wanted to ask you about, and this does tie into something we got in the chat earlier today, and I do want to talk about this, is Jean Grey and her inclusion in this. But while I agree with you, I love the whole orphan story and the connection that she has with Peter, because they both end up being orphaned, and it's Aunt May who kind of reaches both of them in different ways, right? But to me, I was like, why Jean? Why would you put Jean Grey in a Spider-Man movie? Because I was like, she's got no connection to Spider-Man in the comics. And I was going to ask you, Pat, can you recall anything other than the big crossover events where Jean was ever involved with Peter Parker or Spider-Man? Because I don't think it was there.
No, not significantly.
Right.
I will also argue that's okay. Like, I think that, and I've talked about this many, many times, there's so much within the MCU that is unique to the MCU. There are homages to comics, and there are recognition of pieces of comics. And the MCU has a job right now, as we head towards the X-Men, to introduce the X-Men. Mm-hmm. And I believe somebody, in our chat had brought up Kitty Pryde.
I'll put it up right now for you.
Because Kitty Pryde did indeed in the Ultimate universe, did indeed date Peter for quite some time. That was a legit thing. And maybe that would make more sense. I don't know what the story is there. I don't know what it is to tell or how to connect it.
Right. And the thing is Kitty would be cool, but her involvement has always been more with Colossus than with Peter Parker.
I mean, that's the prime world recognition of
right. And it's just like, and looking at the big picture of, like you're saying, Pat, they got to introduce X-Men into this thing. Jean is certainly a more recognizable character, and the I think, well, I wouldn't say infinitely, but more powerful character out of the two between Jean Grey.
I mean, she's Jean Grey is an Omega level mutant. Like, Jean Grey can take on just about anybody.
To your point, if there's somebody
not crazy,
if there's somebody who could break Doctor Strange's spell, it is Jean Grey, and this is even before she's got Phoenix Force in her. Right. So.
There's also a couple of other foundational things that have been laid with regards to the X-Men that I don't think people really paid attention to. Damage Control is building Cerebro. Yeah. That's what Damage Control is fucking doing when it breaks apart. Now, that is not to say that when we get to Charles Xavier and all that, Cerebro won't be a thing there. But I was sitting there, I was like, that's Cerebro.
Oh,
Like
I
the
know what
way
I
that
want
they're
to ask
trying
you,
to.
Pat.
What's that?
The main bad guy, that's Mr. Milchick from Severance, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
He's
And
great.
Emmy
He's
Award
great.
winning actor who's phenomenal. And he plays the same sort of, it's a little bit of a different, he's a corporate shill bad guy in Severance, obviously. You've watched the show, right?
I'm in season 2, yeah. So
Good job. Tony, you should watch Severance. But you're missing out. But that soft voice, that gentle, like kind, trying to make, yeah, but it's fake. Like,
Yeah.
and that's the thing that's so great is like he's kind and he sounds caring, but he's fake, and that's so great. And
yeah, everything like where he's talking about VMAX, right? And he's like trying to play down that he doesn't really know, but you know he's
but
full
he
of
but he
shit.
legit doesn't know. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, that's the best part is that he really didn't know.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting there like that. I was like, is it a chemical? Is it a person? Is it, what could it be? And yeah, then it turns out to just be the air conditioner.
The last thing Sarah saw.
The last thing Sarah saw. Tony, you haven't really spoken much. What are some things? I know you tend to like to listen to Dave and I go back and forth on this, but
Because we're
what do
nerds.
you got going on?
I don't know. I like I think, the character was excellently played. How much does it play into the post-credit scene as well? Like, where are we going there? It's obviously we're going to like multiverse, right? Are we multiversing
Battle
it?
World. I think it's the Battle World connection. And it was really funny when I watched the scene. It was Little O'Dowd and I are there, and then we were with another group of friends, family friends, and one of them was like, "We've already seen Spider-Man in space." I'm like, "He's not in space," and I totally did the nerd voice, where it's like, "He's not in space. He's in Battle World, or it's an incursion of a different Spider-Man." Because one of the things that people pointed out is there are that Spider-Man dot that moves. There's still a Spider-Man dot that stays. What, Dave? I'm sorry.
I was just wondering, can we get Retainer Boy in here to explain this?
No. He's not mad. This is a different nerd. This is like exasperated nerd, more comic book guy than Retainer Boy guy. But it's really interesting people's level of like disappointment in this post credit scene, where if you're really paying attention, they're telling you. And the big rumor is that it's Tobey Maguire as an incursion in an X-Men universe, or an X-Men incursion, or it's just a different. And it could be Spider-Man being pulled into Battle World, which is actually Secret Wars, not Doomsday. There's a lot of different things it could possibly mean, and all of them, in my opinion, are intriguing and leave you with questions as to what's this going to mean for Doomsday, or what does this mean for Secret Wars. And I wasn't like thrilled or excited. I think that I was just like, I was satisfied with that tease. I think people have created way too high of an expectation on these post-credit scenes these days, like too high. Like, we want them to tell us something huge and be like, oh my God, that even when something is shown to be, in my opinion, very important, we're like, oh, that's disappointing, because we didn't see a new person, we didn't see a new character, we didn't see it was a screenshot, and that's not what
we didn't get Thanos. We didn't get Thanos, right?
To quote Greg DeMarco, it wasn't on their playlist, so we hate it.
The other point that David made that I was kind of had in the back of my head, why I didn't mind it was Jean Grey at all, was how much are we going to get into the Phoenix Force? And Dave brought that up because that's a really interesting thing that they can do too.
And this is what I had the conversation coming out of the theater with my niece and my nephew. It was like, does Marvel dare go down that Dark Phoenix path? Now, could they get it right? Yes, they could. But
I would.
Do we need to go? I mean,
it's been tried so often and failed.
Right. And but I mean, if they're gonna do it right, let's be honest. Dark Phoenix is every bit the universal threat that Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet was.
Right.
Easy.
And when we get to, because the next phase after this is supposed to be the X-Men saga. Like that's the next stop. But there's so many universal threats that the X-Men face that there's all kinds of positive. There's the Shi'ar, there is the Kree, there is Apocalypse, there is Magneto. There's so much that you can do. Hell,
Yeah.
you could just have Mr. Sinister. Like there's so much out there that we'll have to wait and see. I do not think it is an accident though that Sarah's scrunchie was green and gold.
That's true.
Because that's the OG Phoenix colors, green and gold.
I mean, it is a cool thing to have in their back pocket. If they need, it's like, emergency break glass in case of emergency. If things start going weird and sideways, they can always pivot. Look, we got Dark Phoenix right here that we can swing to if we need to, as long as it's done right. That's the big. And if you're going to do it over 3 or 4 movies rather than just try and cram the whole thing in 2 hours, okay, you can do something with that.
I think here's where the good grace of fandoms happen with the MCU that DC doesn't get. Kevin Feige has literally just said we're resetting with these with Doomsday and Secret Wars. Like he's come out and he said we're resetting, and this is then going to become an easier universe to continue with and follow. That makes sense. So
this is their Crisis on Infinite Earths. They're going to get rid of all the multiverse.
They're retconning it. They're fixing it. That's at least that's how they see it. That's what they got going on, and they're tying up some OG loose ends, and maybe maybe there was a blessing in disguise with the Jonathan Majors controversy that has allowed them to put this back together. I wanted to see Kang's one of my favorite villains of all time. I've said this repeatedly. Kang is absolutely one of my favorite villains of all time. Popped like crazy when he showed up in X-Men '97.
They basically lost it. They lost everything they did with the Loki series too, because that was so perfectly intertwined with what they were about to do.
And this is a way to just sort of get that straightened out. At least that's what they're trying to do. So I am very interested and intrigued to see it. Trying to think if there's any other thing. Damage control. Why is every entity that exists that starts as something good, be it Shield, now Damage Control, why is it always a shitstorm? It's always a shitstorm. It's always evil. We're always doing terrible things. Hell, even the Avengers at one point, I don't love the Tony Stark, I want to build a suit of armor for the world. That's not good either. It's always a shitstorm. Always falls apart.
In true bandwagon nerds tradition, it doesn't have a rich history, although it has a very rich density to its kind of brief tradition that's happened. But I have to ask you guys a question. Did you know that Florence Pugh was in this movie?
Shocked, I tell you.
I heard
that.
Something.
You know what? That was big potatoes right there. That was big potato.
I love her office, man.
Potato.
Her office is beautiful. I mean, relaxing.
I love her office as well.
The big potatoes.
Big potatoes.
To her, that's actually your office. Yes, Dave.
Yeah.
I mean, she was excellent. Absolutely.
My density has popped me to you. Oh, sorry. Different movie.
So I think here's the thing. Florence Pugh is we joke about it 100%. I think they're positioning her to be the Tony Stark anchor, the unifying character of the MCU. Not Tony Stark, but the unifying character of the MCU. She's fucking everywhere. She's Roy Kent. She's here. She's there. She's every fucking where.
Sorry, Tony.
Yelena Belova.
I just want to say, she is being referred to as Black Widow, so she has clearly replaced her sister now in this new universe.
And isn't it funny how okay everybody is with that?
Yeah.
Versus the Captain America issue.
Yeah, exactly. It's
full circle. Full circle.
Florence
The new Avengers could steal the show in Doomsday.
I hope they do. I love the makeup of the new Avengers. I love how Thunderbolts was successful in the way that it was.
Underrated, not talked enough about.
Massively.
True story. It was playing on the cruise ship this during our vacation. That was one of their movie theater movies. And the little O'Dowd, we were on our way to get gelato. And he's like, man, I kind of want to just watch the rest of this movie. And I'm like, well, let's go get the gelato and we can come back and watch the movie.
You already
And
know
so
what
we did.
happens.
We watched Thunderbolts and had gelato in a completely. We were the only two people in this theater too. Like it was just us. It was kind of awesome.
Let me
good
put
quality
something to you, Pat, because I know we gotta cut this off. But this, in your mind, you're the big Spider-Man fan. The significance of Spidey going from artificial to more organic. Is there any ongoing, lasting significance to that?
I don't think so. I think that this was about Peter embracing his evolution, which is where we see it at the end when he's like, I'm both. And so I'm fine with it. I've never been one of those people who's been like, he must be, tech science guy or, naturally Spidey thing. Like, I think it's fine. I think it's easier for them to film, to be blunt.
Would you agree, Patrick, that because to me it meant that he has reached his full peak, his full ability, right?
Right. That's the point of that video that he's watching while he's working on the inhibitor, which the other thing that a lot of people are pointing out is that Peter Parker did invent the technology to suppress mutants and oppress them, though that has existed in other forms, in other ways. There have been other power suppressing things.
Bruce Banner invented it in this movie before he invented it even.
Yeah, so his version of it it was based on gamma. But yeah, Peter with these inhibitor chips.
Couldn't attach it to Hulk though. Could not break it, get it on his skin.
Well, that's the thing about him. Okay, one other thing. Frank Castle, I love you, bro. You know enough about the Hulk to know that you can't unload 3 clips and hope to do any damage.
Right.
Like, I did love the line where Peter's like, "Are you just doing this so you don't have to fight the Hulk?" And Frank was like, "Yeah, basically, yeah, I'm out." So, all right. I don't know that we really need to do this, but it is a formality that we go through when we talk about any movie. But Spider-Man Brand New Day, nerd approved, bandwagon approved. Yes, bandwagon approved.
Yeah.
All right.
If I could get my feet up here, I'd get some toes involved.
We don't want to see your grippers. It's fine.
We don't need to.
That's on my OnlyFans account.
We don't need to see your Megan Fox thumbs.
Oh, no, thank you. All right, there you have it, everybody. Spider-Man Brand New Day, bandwagon approved, which leads us into our final segment of the show, What You Watching. Gentlemen, outside of Spider-Man and X-Men, what you watching this week? Let's start with Dave. Load the witness.
So I told you I'm watching
Lead the Witness.
Leading the witness. I'm still looking for the witness. Like I mentioned that I've watched Severance. I've been watching Severance season 2. I got through in anticipation. I am through season 2 of Ted Lasso. The season finale for that was great. I love that. I am into season 3 of Ted Lasso, trying to get caught up for season 4, which is just in a few days.
Wednesday.
I was going to say, and I'm glad I saved this, but and it's funny you talk about Jonathan Majors. Pat, a few years ago, you'd recommended a show called Lovecraft Country. And I watched the very first episode of Lovecraft Country, and that was fucking awesome, man.
It only gets weirder, bro.
Yeah, and it's like that's another show that's like, oh, why did this only get 1 year season out of this whole thing? But just off the first episode alone, it's like, oh, this is a really good show. And Jonathan Majors, it's so sad because, like, man, he had talent, and
he's a very talented actor.
And I really hope
his personal life really screwed things up.
I really hope that reverses itself some way because everybody deserves a second chance, and whatever he was accused of wasn't nearly as bad as how it was played up, but it is what it is. But that's kind of what I've been watching. No, that's it. That's all for me.
Tony.
I mean, between Game of Thrones and X-Men 97 and Spider-Man and wrestling, like I can't even keep storylines straight. Like I'm like Roman Reigns against Daemon Targaryen. You got Peter Parker trying to do Wolverine and stuff like that. One thing I am
Edge
excited
versus Sasha Banks in a Hell in a Cell.
I mean, what the hell's going on here, right? All back. Thank you, Patrick. What I am excited to watch, and I'll report back next week, is that ESPN Jeopardy is on Disney Plus with Joe Buck as the host. So I'm interested to check that out and see how well I will do.
I'm
sure
like
if somebody wins from one night to the next, does Joe Buck say, "We'll see you tomorrow night"?
I sure hope so.
That'd be kind of cool.
Tune in, find out.
So let's see. I finished up. So for Love of the Game, still not streaming anywhere uh, for me to watch, which is really annoying in my baseball movie summer. So my final baseball movie that I chose to watch for the summer, just before I left for the cruise, Tom Hanks in A League of Their Own with Gina Davis. And I just got to say, guys, you want to know who one of the most underrated performances in that movie is? It's John Lovitz as the scout who is pulling the talent in. He is brilliant. Like, I rewatched it, I was like, man, he's really good in this film. Like, I was,
Yeah.
I don't know. It really struck me how great he is, how great Lori Petty is.
Hey, cowgirls, there's grass. Don't eat it.
Right. Like, it's so good. But yeah, so I watched that just before the cruise. On the international flights, I watched the entire Dark Knight trilogy, flying home, and then John Wick 1. On the way to Rome, I watched Infinity War and Endgame back to back, because you got time. It's a 10.5-hour flight, everybody. Like, it's you got some time to kill. And then on the ship, the little O'Dowd, so I said we watched the Thunderbolts. He rewatched Deadpool and Wolverine 3 times. We watched it 3 times. And now he walks around the house, and every once in a while he just looks at me and goes, "Till you're 90." Referencing Hugh Jackman in the Wolverine role. So lots of random stuff. Got back stateside, caught up on X-Men 97. Very, very much excited for Ted Lasso, and ready for that. Hopefully, I hope it's not a terrible retread, but we'll see. A lot of the main cast has shown that they're back in some capacity.
Trailers look good. I mean,
trailers are trailers. It is a familiar warm blanket for a lot of the fans of the show, I would say, to start. So, and then I plan on watching SummerSlam Night 2 tonight. Less exciting main event and all. So that's kind of what I got watching. But fellas, that'll do it for this week's edition. Before we get out of here, tell everyone where they can find you on the socials and streamings.
Tony, I mean, you want to point, you're like Triple H. You're just pointing. Yeah, there's your guy right there. For me, well, it's pretty simple. Just go over here, attitudeofaggression.com, and go check out, of course, the YouTube channel where we've been, this was a very busy weekend over on the Attitude of Aggression YouTube channel, but that is the best way to get a hold of me. Pat?
Oh, did you already put your stuff up?
I did.
I wasn't paying attention. A point. What the fuck is that? You can follow me on all the socials at Wrestling Realist. That is at WRESTLNGREALIST. You can catch me every Monday, Tuesday, and most Wednesdays. Mondays, talking nerdy stuff with these guys. Tuesdays, though not this Tuesday, I promise you the Four Corners podcast will return next week. This week will be another edition of Unidentified History. And Wednesdays, talking grown-ass man shit on the Grown-Ass Man podcast with Greg DeMarco when we feel like it. I would assume we're going to talk a lot more about Patrick's adventures in the Mediterranean on this week's Grown-Ass Man podcast if Mr. DeMarco and I are on page. So thank you, everyone, for listening live. If you listen live, thank you, everyone who are listening to this on Monday as a recording. But this is going to do it for this week's edition of Bandwagon Nerds. So get yourself out of the basement, get yourself some sun, and if you haven't seen it yet, go see Spider-Man Brand New Day on the biggest screen possible. Don't settle for some bootleg leak edition. Go see it the way it was meant to be seen on the big screen. Thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Bandwagon Nerds here on the Chairshot Radio Network, part of the Chairshot.com.